Well, hello and welcome to Curiosity, Not Judgment. My name is Birga.
And I'm Gary.
So, we are just going to do a little short conversation today before we launch into some pretty heavy subject matter, I would say, next time. We're going to jump into paradigms and shifting paradigms, which I think we began to talk about today a little bit. We both need some additional time to process and to come prepared with some thoughts of our own as we together cultivate some conversation around that concept. But before we get into that for the next episode, we just wanted to do a little update about why we're doing any of this in the first place. I know we talked real briefly with the first episode that this really was an idea to write a book, and the content was going to be used to write a book, and that still is absolutely true. But I'm finding this to be very helpful to me in my week to week, just the opportunity to come and process some of the things that I'm walking through. You're an excellent person for me to bounce ideas off of. You've got a whole lot of wisdom to lend me, and certainly to our audience. We definitely want to have engagement with you all because we know life is challenging and we often get stuck in a rut in our thinking. And sometimes it's very helpful to have people discuss with us some of the things that have kept us in a stuck position.
Well, and I'm a processor. I'm a people processor. I'm not the kind of person, we often talk about introvert, extrovert, and, what are the definitions of that? Wisdom is in the definition of terms. We usually think of people who are outgoing versus people who are not outgoing. And that's just a small part of it. It's an overgeneralization. But a big part of extrovert versus introvert is how we process things. I'm a big extrovert in that I like to process through conversations with other people. The show House was one of my favorite shows, and he could not process unless it was with other people. And so one time he does something really silly and gets his whole staff fired. And so he goes and grabs the brand new ER nurse, the janitor, and some kid who's waiting for something in the hospital who's bouncing a basketball, and sits him in the chairs. And he starts to talk about his case and process what it is. And they're all just looking at him like, we have no idea what you're talking about. But he comes up with the solution because he has to have people around and explain what's going on. And I think there's huge value in that for me. And so processing things as we go along and we discover our revelations and we start thinking about these things is hugely helpful. It's almost like the teacher learns more than the student. If you're thinking about certain things and you're not in your silly rut of coming home and putting on the TV and just not thinking about things and then starting all over the next day, anything that gets you out of that rut, anything that helps you to think about what's going on. Plato used to say said that the unexamined life isn't worth living. It was either Plato or Socrates, one of those brilliant dudes. Anyway, that's part of what this is all about, is examining things, thinking through things. But the real intent of this is, how do we, while we're trying to figure out how to write a book, how do we process some of this thinking, and how do we get feedback from you and others about what we're thinking, and how do we make this practical for folks? I mean, it's one thing to build awareness, which is a good thing about, trying to be curious, not judgmental. But then what do you do about that? How do you go from being aware of it, which is the first step, to then actually practicing it?
Right. And I know that we plan to talk about that in more detail next episode, and we certainly will cover a lot of that. But between now and then, and even as we go forward in time, once again, just want to extend the invitation for you all to submit some of those topics that you would really like some further exploration on. And the easiest way to do that is to simply go to the website, curiositynotjudgment.com. And I had written it out and on my little thing to show you here, but I have a funny feeling it's going to show up inverted and it's going to have a glare on there. But I will make notes in the section with direct links and how you find us, but curiositynotjudgment.com. And we absolutely have a contact area there and want to hear from you all. Agree, disagree, or have a new topic altogether that you would like to have us begin the dialogue over. And ultimately, I think it would be fun. You met our buddy John Freisinger in past episodes for us to continue on with some guest co-hosts to pick their brains and to learn learn from the wise so that we can continue in our growth and in our endeavor to continue to be curious. And so if you've got a guest in mind that you would like us to include on the program, we would love to hear who that is as well.
Yeah, and John started out as it was a response to things that we were discussing and talking about here. And he's, as we introduced him, one of the best, questioners that I know, somebody who comes up with good questions and cultivates those. But, it's not just topic ideas. It's do you have ideas about anything that we've said? Is there some other thought leadership that we're missing, some gaps? Very interested in that also, and that's one of the reasons we're doing this. So whatever feedback or input that you have, I'm sure as you're listening to this, you're probably thinking, I'm smarter than those guys. Write some of that stuff.
Yeah, we want to learn.
We want to learn. So that would be great if you could.
Yeah. So we'll make this short and sweet and just say we'll see you next time. But between now and then, please do think through some of those questions, suggestions, even opportunities for guests that you would maybe like us to meet. We'd love for you to make the introduction. We can always do a recording by Zoom if it's somebody not in our immediate vicinity. We'd love to learn from the best. So send us those submissions. curiositynotjudgment.com. I will put all the links, the pertinent links, available for you in the show notes so that you can grab those. So as always, thank you for listening.
Take care.